What's up, my comic comrades? We are now on the heels of the release of Thor: Love and Thunder, so it's time to bust out some theories about how the film might play out and how it could change the MCU moving forward. It also has to be said that ever since the MCU started rolling out shows on Disney+, it's become much harder to discern what the overarching direction for the MCU actually is. All we know is that the multiverse is a big factor, and Kang will seemingly end up being the Thanos of Phase 4. But really, only Kevin Feige and a few select others know at this point. In any case, for now, let's talk some Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, if there's one thing we can safely assume, it's that Thor: Love and Thunder will involve the multiverse in one form or another, whether that's by mentioning it, traveling through it, or some other reference. Phase 4 of the MCU is definitely centered around the multiverse, as the Loki Disney Plus show really kicked it off, followed by the What If series, then Spider-Man No Way Home, and of course the more recent Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Meaning, like I said, it's safe to say Love and Thunder will also focus on the multiverse somehow. But what I think is surprising from the trailers is that they already debunked Jane Foster Thor being an alternate reality version of Thor. In the trailer, Jane asks Thor, "What's it been, like 3 or 4 years?" And Thor responds, 8 years, 7 months, and 6 days. Give or take. It just seems like half the time to Jane because she got blipped, confirming this isn't an alternate version of Jane. This is the main continuity version we already know. So with most people's main guess as to the multiverse's involvement being debunked, what the heck could Love and Thunder have to do with the multiverse? Well, I have a theory. But first, let's talk about a few characters I think can make an appearance in this film as big surprises for us comic book fans. The first being Thor's sister, Angela. For those of you who don't know, Angela is the long-lost sister of Thor and Loki. She's been a Huntress of Heaven and a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. The funny thing about Angela, she was originally created by Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane, first appearing in Spawn issue 9 as a Spawn universe character, but back in 2013, she was acquired by Marvel and retooled to fit into Thor's mythology. First appearing as a Marvel character in Age of Ultron issue 10. With Thor being the first MCU character to get a 4th solo film, it's only natural that they have to pull out all the stops. Introducing Angela in the film, especially in a post-credit scene, much like they introduced Clea at the end of the Multiverse of Madness, would be a dope move. There's so much for them to explore there, especially after Thor Ragnarok, with how Thor's evil sister Hela tried to kill him and Loki. It would be cool to have Angela show up curious about the events of Ragnarok. Plus, it would be nice to see Thor have a sister who's not trying to kill him. And bonus points, Angela's associated with the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics. We already know the Guardians of the Galaxy are in this film, as we saw Thor leaving with them in Endgame, plus they're in the trailer. So it makes all the sense in the world for Angela to show up. If we see a former Spawn character turned Marvel character in the MCU fighting alongside her brother as a lifelong comic fan, that would be a trip. My next theory for a character appearance I think we're gonna get in the film is Hercules. If you know anything about Marvel Comics, specifically Thor, this is another no-brainer. It's really something that should happen, and if it doesn't happen in the film, I'm gonna be really pissed off. We already know Russell Crowe is playing Zeus in the film, and one of my theories is that Gore the God Butcher is going to kill him, or at least badly injure him. So whether he's killed or extremely hurt, I think Zeus being on the ropes is going to force the appearance of his son Hercules. So with Zeus in the film, I can't see them not at least briefly showing or introducing his son Hercules. Hercules is a huge character in Marvel Comics, way more so than Zeus, who's only appeared a handful of times in some Thor comics. Plus, Hercules is a freaking full-blown Avenger. So yeah, he's a pretty big deal. Personally, I feel the only reason they're introducing Zeus is 1, so we could find Gore, and 2, so they could introduce Hercules and make him a mainstay in the MCU. I think I'd be more upset not seeing Hercules in this movie than not seeing Beta Ray Bill, especially since Zeus is in the movie and apparently has a decently important role. So if you have Zeus in the movie and you don't introduce his son Hercules, who is both an Avenger and one of the more popular characters in Marvel, it'll be one of the biggest missed opportunities in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I will be livid. But with that said, another character I feel is going to be introduced, someone who really should be in the film and who I just referenced, is Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill is easily one of the most popular Thor characters, as he's one of Thor's best friends and on par with Thor's strength. Although if you've been reading Donny Cates' Thor series, you know when the two of them fought in issue 3, Thor was like, "In the past, you and I have fought and been equal. This will not be that." It was pretty badass as we see Thor proceed to stomp Bill and destroy Stormbreaker. The point is, it's time for them to introduce Beta Ray Bill. He's a huge part of Thor's mythology. Plus, they already teased his existence in Thor Ragnarok when we saw a statue of his head among statues of the Grandmaster's champions. So all signs lead to him appearing in this film. And if/when he does finally make his appearance, that will also mean some dope new Beta Ray Bill collectibles and art pieces. Maybe even a Beta Ray Bill displate or two that we add to our collection. We introduced you guys to displate last year, and the metal posters are a staple on our variant sets. They actually have a ton of great Thor art pieces, including a new Love and Thunder lineup. Displate's unique magnetic wall mount system makes hanging your posters insanely quick and easy. In fact, we have an office that kind of looked like a prison cell, so we got a few extra large displates to show you how easy it is and what a huge difference they make. Each displate metal poster comes with a mounting kit and guide, stickers, and magnets. You just line them up where you you want to hang them, apply the magnets to the wall where instructed on the guide sticker, and mount your poster. The whole thing is done in minutes without having to use a hammer or a single nail. It's freaking great. To power up this office, we chose Displate's extra large Iron Man, Avengers, and new Thor Love and Thunder movie posters. We also used Displate's very cool new 3D wall magnets to give the posters some extra depth. But Displate has millions of other designs available, including licensed art from brands like Marvel, DC Comics, Netflix, and more, so you could build a collection with art from some of your favorite properties. You could also choose from several size, finish, and frame options. So click our link in the description to check out Displate's massive catalog, including the new Thor Love and Thunder collection. And for a limited time, when you use our link, you'll get a special discount of 25% off 1 or 2 Displates, or 29% off if you buy 3 or more Displates. So click our link and start building your own Displate collection. Then make sure to let us know which designs are your favorite down in the comments. But now we've arrived at my Thor Love and Thunder theory involving the multiverse. As we know, in the comics, Odin made Stormbreaker for Beta Ray Bill after he saw him worthy of possessing Mjolnir. There's a lot more to it, but you can check out our Origin of Stormbreaker episode to get all the deets. The point I'm trying to make is Stormbreaker belongs to Beta Ray Bill. It was literally made for him. So when the MCU decided to have it be made for Thor in Infinity War after he lost Mjolnir in Ragnarok, we were all like, how the heck is Beta Ray Bill going to get it? We have 2 theories, first of which involves the multiverse, which I was alluding to earlier. I think it's possible that in the film, Beta Ray Bill might come from an alternate reality wielding his version of Stormbreaker. It could be as simple as he comes from another reality to help Odin's son and Jane Foster Thor, being like, Gore has destroyed countless gods from my world. I'm here to help defend yours. And if that happens, that would explain how he could have a version of Stormbreaker and would give us more of the Phase 4 multiverse theme. Plus, we'd finally get live action Beta Ray Bill. Plain and simple, that's all we want. The second theory of how they could introduce Beta Ray Bill is that he just already exists in the main MCU reality, as again, we saw his statue in Thor Ragnarok. So hear me out. We all know Chris Hemsworth has been playing Thor since Phase 1. He's one of the few OG Avengers left in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And like I said earlier, he's the first character in the MCU to get a 4th solo film. Long story short, he's been playing Thor for a very long time. So it's very likely that they could kill him off at the end of the film. It could make sense for them to introduce Jane Foster Thor to take over the Thor franchise, but if Odin's son dies at the hands of Gore the God Butcher, that would mean Stormbreaker would no longer have a wielder. Enter Beta Ray Bill, who could show up and become Stormbreaker's new wielder as he fights alongside Jane Foster Thor going forward in the MCU. I feel like this is the more likely scenario that could play out, as I don't see them giving Mjolnir back to Chris Hemsworth Thor by the end of the film. I also don't think they're just going to give us Jane Foster Thor in one movie, then be like, that's it, she's normal Jane Foster again. No shot. She's wielding that hammer for at least a few films. I mean, they've been handing over mantles left and right in the MCU. We got Sam Wilson as the new Captain America. We're gonna have Riri Williams as the new Iron Man or Ironheart in the Disney Plus show. Jennifer Walter She-Hulk seems to be the main Hulk going forward. And Shuri is most likely taking on the Black Panther mantle and Wakanda Forever. Giving the Thor mantle to Jane Foster Thor would fit right in. So the big question is, what happens to Odin's son, aka Chris Hemsworth Thor? Do you kill him off, or do you just continue to pull a Jason Aaron story arc and have him around as unworthy Thor? Don't get me wrong, I would like to see that. I just don't see them playing that out in the films. What I'm saying is, a very possible outcome is that Thor is going to die in this film, at which point Stormbreaker will be passed on to Beta Ray Bill. Now, I've touched on how the multiverse might appear in this film, several new characters that I think the movie will introduce, and the possibility of Thor dying, setting up Jane as the main Thor going forward. But I have yet to talk about the main villain of the film, Batman himself, Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. If you don't know, Gore the God Butcher in the comics is one of Thor's best villains. Gore starts off 3,000 years before his first appearance as this normal alien who's been told his whole life that God will save him and his family. God will provide and give them everything they need. But that never happens. Quite the opposite, actually, as at an early age, his parents die, leaving him to fend for himself. Then years later, he loses his wife and kids. This makes him extremely bitter towards the gods, and when two gods crash land on his planet, instead of helping them, he bonds with one of their swords, aka All Black, the Necro Sword, and with his newfound power declares that he will kill all gods in existence with All Black, the Necro Sword, as they're selfish and they only care about themselves. So obviously, in the movie, he's out to kill Thor, Zeus, and every god he can find. We actually see in the trailer that he's already killed Falagar the Behemoth, which was taken straight out of Jason Aaron's Thor run. So obviously, it's safe to say that Thor and Gore are gonna have a massive battle at the end of the film, one that may lead to Thor's death, Gore's death, or both. And I can't wait to see Christian Bale's portrayal of Gore. I think what I'm more curious about than Gore is his sword, All Black, because in the comics, we know the sword comes directly from Null, god of the symbiotes. I'm hoping the sword will be the connection to introduce more symbiotes into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They already teased Venom at the end of Venom 2 coming to the MCU, and then at the end of No Way Home, there was a little piece of symbiote left, in the MCU after Eddie Brock was taken back to his universe. So hopefully All Black is the next piece to the symbiote puzzle, unleashing more symbiotes into the MCU. Plus, it could help explain the possible Tom Holland Spider-Man confrontation with Venom in the inevitable Spider-Man 4. Not saying Venom will be in Spider-Man 4, but it certainly seems like that's what they've been teasing. And with No Way Home having essentially rebooted Tom Holland's Spider-Man, the timing works really well. They just have to connect the leftover symbiote piece to the Necro Sword. But if by the end of the movie the Necro Sword is left alone after the defeat of Gore, and they tease Null coming for his weapon and possibly making him the new big bad going forward, I will literally crap my pants. Again, that most likely is not going to happen, but man, do I want it. But there you have it, friends, just some of the things I think we may or may not see in Thor: Love and Thunder, and how it could affect the MCU going forward. Obviously, the Necro Sword finally brings symbiotes to the MCU, and Thor dying and leaving Jane as the new Thor going forward would change the MCU a lot. So now we've just got to watch the movie and see where they take us. But that's just our 2 cents. I'm sure you guys have plenty of your own thoughts. So what do you think of our theories, and what are some of your own? Let us know in the comments. And that's gonna bring today's episode to a close, but if you enjoyed this episode, check out this one right here. And if you like all of our content, like, subscribe, and comment. It helps us grow. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.